Hello everyone, this is FIDE Viktor Neustroyev, and today I decided to conduct a mastermind devoted to closed positions and typical plans and maneuvers in these closed positions. For example, you actually see the example on the board. This position is closed, not fully closed, but there are no open files. Okay, while we are waiting for more attendees to come, I want to make sure that the sound and video quality is good. Please, please message me if the video and audio quality is good. You actually see. I also want you to know that I'm streaming this webinar on several platforms, on our TheChessWorld.com website, as well as on the TheChessWorld.com YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, Tricks of Chess, on my Twitch channel, also Tricks of Chess, and on our Facebook group, Facebook page, to be precise. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let me actually close it. All good, perfect. So, we can start. First of all, I want you to understand, well, the basic things about positions that are closed or positions with a closed center is that you definitely should realize if you may start a kingside attack. And maybe you remember this game because I was already conducting a webinar where I include this position. Here I would like to just remind you that when the center is open, when the center is closed, it makes sense to consider a kingside attack. However, a kingside attack may not work if you see that your opponent has enough resources on that king side and is able to defend his king with his pieces, or in case if he has a stronger or faster counterplay on the other side of the board. Here it's not the case. In this position, they have no counterplay on the queen side. Every time they play it, it's a takes b5. That's why white may allow themselves to play a kingside attack with g4. Knight goes there, h4. And, well, here, if black doesn't want to lose the game, they should play f5. What do you think? How white should continue in order to succeed with the kingside attack? Okay, I'm checking your comments here. Well, here, if white wants to attack the king, they should play h5 and try to open the position on the side where the enemy king is located. So h5, f5 to keep the position closed and also to restrict the bishop. This is how black wants to make the king protected with its pawns. But here white may continue with g5, rook f7, and bishop g4 with the idea to exchange bishops and bring the queen into the attack. Queen comes to d8. Bishop takes c8, queen takes c8. Knight f3. Queen g4 can be a very attractive move in this position, but unfortunately for them it doesn't work. Who can tell me what's wrong with this move? Well, actually, nothing wrong, but h takes g6, h takes g6, queen e2, they castle and bring the other rook to g1. So knight f3, king to bishop to f8. What can you guess the next move of white? Okay. H takes g6 here. Well, h takes g6 is not enough. Well, yeah, this move is possible, but how to play then? You definitely need more pieces involved into the attack. Queen e2, yeah, bringing the queen into the attack is a good idea, but queen e2, then queen f1, then queen g2, queen h2 is too slow. Can you suggest a better way to deliver your queen into the attack? Okay, the best move is king e2. The queen comes to the king side directly. Yeah, that's right. Rook g7, rook h4, knight comes to d7, and after h takes g6, it's time to bring the queen into the attack, threatening a dangerous check on h8. Bishop e7, rook h8, king goes there, and queen h6. The next step can be, for example, knight h4, knight takes g6 and rook h7. However, after knight f8, supporting on g6, rook h1 and rook b8, with the idea to look for a counterplay, white is ready to apply a tactical strike, and actually this tactical strike decided the game. What do you think? Which move I'm talking about? So what would you suggest white to play here? Well, when the position is closed, you should definitely consider a tactical strike, but you should calculate this tactical strike properly and make sure that you have enough material advantage on a certain side of the board to either checkmate or gain the material back. For example, in this position, how can we open it? Looks like they protect everything, g6 is covered, we cannot play this move. Well, moving the queen back and then somehow remaneuver with our rook and then play rook h7 doesn't really look good. This knight to h4 and then what? Knight g6, but then knight takes g6. Again, it doesn't work. That's why white opens the position with this sacrifice. Bishop takes f4 with the idea of taking on e5. Black takes. Oh, well, actually, black didn't take in the game. If black takes, it's e5 and d6 on the next move. Or, wait a sec, instead of e5, we can also play this move with the idea just to take this pawn. I think it's much better than e5. So, in the game, after bishop f4, it was queen to c7, queen h2, with the idea of taking on e5 and then taking with the knight, which is a checkmate. Well, not a checkmate because they may sacrifice the queen, but knight e5 would gain the queen in such a case. Knight d7, queen h3, coming to e6, so they have go back with the knight. Now we can at least, well, we may consider rook takes f8. And if bishop f8, this is a checkmate. That's why king has to take. However, in this case, it's still queen e6 with a mating threat, rook h8. In the game, it was rook g8, and now the plan is just to grab the pawn on g6 because nothing can stop us from taking it. Bishop d8 was played, but still knight g6, and if they take, it's a checkmate with this move. So, for example, well, if they block, it's a checkmate in one move. If they play this move, it's this. King goes there and queen g6. So here king g7 was played, but it's not enough. Well, knight e7 is possible. Knight e5 was played as the best move because if pawn takes, it's bishop takes on e5, gaining the queen. Well, they played a few moves more, but then the game was over. Here, for example, bishop f8, they have to block with the queen, and they simply get a checkmate with this operation. So, what I want to demonstrate with this game. So, this game is just a simple illustration that when the position is closed, and you see that you have an opportunity to bring more forces to the side where the enemy king is located, it makes sense for you to try to open the position of the enemy king by initiating a kingside attack and doing a pawn march. And later, when you see that you have enough pieces to checkmate the enemy king, or maybe you gain enough material advantage because of this attack. So that's the logic. But of course, a kingside attack is a common plan, but at the same time, what if you cannot apply a kingside attack? What if your king is already castled to the king side? What if your opponent has a material majority on that side? Well, in such a case, you may consider something else. And this example was just to illustrate the basics that club players should definitely learn. But now we get deeper, and now I would like to demonstrate several game fragments where your task will be to improve your position improve your position in general when the pawn structure is closed or almost closed. And here we start with the first game. That was Vasily Smyslov playing with white pieces. And, well, it's almost a closed position. There are only two files which are semi-open. This and this. Everything else is closed. White has bishop and queen on the same diagonal, potentially pressuring h7. They are threatening to take on f5. But looks like black has enough defenders. It's 3 attackers versus 3 defenders. What do you think? Which plan white should follow in this position? A direct king attack with a pawn march here, of course, doesn't work. Okay, guys, I'm looking for your comments now. Meredith is actually correct. Here, while the knight is pinned, it means that we have a lot of a lot of squares available, but we are looking for e3 in order to reinforce the attack. So we cannot play g4, we cannot add another attacker, but we can play rook e3 and rook f3 on the next move. So what happened then? Queen e7. Another thing they could do was actually rook here to e8, and after this move the best way to get rid of this pin is to sacrifice the pawn. However, then knight g3 and you are still threatening with a mate on h7. Queen e7. That was what was played in the game. Rook f3, pressuring e4, and they have to sacrifice. We take it. And then in the game it was knight h4. And what do you think? How white takes advantage of their piece's activity and the enemy king's weakness? So guys, what comes to your mind here? Looks like this time you need to calculate it. Knight takes g5 is suggested by Robert. Okay, Robert, knight takes g5. What can you say about knight f3? Oh, wait. Yeah, knight f3 check. Probably either knight takes f3 or g takes f3. Let's say g takes f3. But after that, I can play bishop f5. And there is no checkmate. So knight g5 is too slow because it allows knight takes f3. Black liquidates the rook with a check and then plays bishop f5 to close it. I can show you. So it doesn't really matter which piece takes. Let's say pawn and then bishop f5. There is no checkmate. If knight takes here, it's slightly better, but still bishop f5. Well, white is not losing. They sacrificed the exchange, but got 2 pawns as a compensation. So knight g5 is a mistake. What else can you suggest? Whip mode suggests knight f6. That's actually right. Knight f6. Well, what happens then? Actually, it doesn't matter which piece they take. We still capture with the rook. Rook takes rook, bishop takes. Well, here they have to take with the queen. Otherwise, it's a losing position just without a pawn and with a bishop pair for white. So queen takes, queen h7, king f8, and just queen d7. In the game, it was rook e8, but even if it was queen b2, just queen c7, and these 2 pawns are object of the attack. So d6 probably is hanging with a check. If queen goes back, then I think we can just simply capture on b7 and then on a7. So rook e8 was played in the game, but queen c7, g4, trying to open the position, h takes g4, queen f4. But bishop f5 is enough to cement the position, and if knight takes, pawn takes, the queen cannot take. This queen on f4 has to protect on d6. So here I wanted you to find how you take advantage of small benefits. And this rook maneuver, so-called rook lift, could allow you to play for a win. The second game fragment is taken from the game between Michael Adams and Etienne Bacroix. Look at this position, it's closed. But white is definitely better. They are pressuring c7, and this is also a weakness that they can potentially attack. If you consider queen c2, then just rook e7, and they have enough defenders. What can you suggest for white? Knight f5. Well, let's check. Knight f5, g takes f5, probably g takes f5, and let's say I play king h8. Tell me how you're gonna play in order to succeed, because I don't really see how you can deliver a checkmate here. Something like queen f7 is okay to cover all the weaknesses. So no, knight f5 is a mistake. What else? From this game fragment, I want you guys to learn such a plan that allows you to improve your worst pieces. So, when you don't know what to do, doesn't really matter if it's open or closed position, you should first look at the plan of your opponent and then decide whether you should disrupt it, or you may allow him to succeed with this plan because it's not dangerous, for example. Or the second thing you should do is to look at your worst piece and try to find a way of how to improve this piece. What do you think? What is your worst piece in this position and how to improve it? Well, when the position is closed, slow plans work. Because when the position is closed, one temper or a few tempers doesn't really change the position a lot. But when the position is open, then one move can cost a game. So one tempo loss means that your opponent can overtake the initiative and as the result win the game. So here you should be looking for plans that consist of a lot of moves, 5, 7, 8. What do you think? Which? Okay, yes, here Meredith is correct. Well, here g3, king g2, rook h1 is possible if you don't have any other suggestions. Let me check what else. So bishop d1. Yes, the bishop is your worst piece, and this bishop requires improvement. And this bishop from d1 may move to e2, after which this is hanging. The other idea is to play g5 and play bishop to g4. For example, c6 was played in the game. That was a kind of a mistake. A better move was rook f8. However, in this case, queen c2, and if they play rook f7, it's g5, f5, e takes f5, g takes f5, and bishop h5. So now if rook moves, we take there. If rook moves there, we take on c7. After queen c2, they can only protect with this weird move, knight e8, but then bishop e2, and here you plan to do something like that. Then rook a5, rook a7, to be able to capture this pawn on b5. They cannot do anything, they have to play c6. Actually, they did play c6 later. They played c6 in this position, I mean. D takes c6, Well, rook takes c6 was in the game, and after queen b5, black decided to resign because they are in a big trouble. For example, rook c3, queen takes d7, knight takes d7, rook takes c3, and then rook enters c7, and white also has two passed pawns on the flank. Well, something like that doesn't work. Rook e7. And in this position, it's enough just to play this move, bishop a4, because this knight cannot be protected. Okay, so here Michael Adams commented that he was expecting this move, bishop c6, after which he could apply the second idea with g5. f5 doesn't work, it's just not enough defenders. So for example, f5, take e4, then you have f6 as intermediate move, but you'd better play queen d4 and take the knight. So g5, bishop b7, let's say, to exchange everything. However, g takes f6, king takes f6, bishop g4, the queen is hanging, that's why they have to exchange. Rook takes c3, queen goes there, and you can simply gain the pawn on b5. Well, they can also capture on e4, but after a4, h5, bishop h3, this is a winning position. You just promote, the king is exposed, and you are going to play knight d5. Okay, so let's go back. Here you could learn a plan of remaneuvering your pieces, especially your worst pieces. Now this the third one. This is the game fragment of Anatoly Karpov. He was playing here with black pieces. The F file is open. G4 is a weakness, but you cannot really attack it. If you attack it, there is a knight or the king on G3 can protect it. And I'm sure you won't guess the move that Anatoly Karpov played in the game. And this move actually is the best move according to the engine. What comes to your mind? Okay, sorry, my connection was broken. Okay, guys. Can you see the board now? There is h5 move suggested. Well, h5, what's the point of h5? To undermine the pawn on h5? Well, if h5 is played, it's just g takes h5. After which you play king h6, they just push the other pawn to g4 to protect the one on h5. b5 is another solution. Okay, so b5 and what then? Just don't see the point of b5. Well, it's hard to find the move, of course. Rook h8, well, rook h8, well, to open the position there, well, if you play rook h8 and then h5, they take, you capture with your rook, but still knight g4, and what did you achieve? You can't even play rook h4, it's just king g3, and your rook is not doing anything. Here, Anatoly Karpov played knight b8. Can you imagine it? What a weird move. Well, if the position is closed, that's why slow plans work. Knight d7, knight c5, attacking these two. Then knight a4, attacking these two. Then also rook activation. So knight f3, knight d7, king g3, knight c5. These two are hanging. He plays rook d1. Now Anatoly Karpov plays a5 in order to improve their rook. King f2, rook a6. Well, this plan, rook f8, didn't work. Rook f8 and then pinning doesn't work. And d4 cannot be played. It's e4 hanging every time. So probably it was better to play b3 and then, for example, rook c6, king e2, knight d7, attacking here, but c4, knight comes to f6, this knight comes there. And then white could play d5 or remaneuver their rook and continue with a4, trying to weaken the pawn structure and enter the enemy camp with rook a2. So king e2 and rook b6 here doesn't work, and this is what I think white wanted black to play. Then, for example, b3, and it seems to be okay. However, this is where knight a4 was played, and now b3 cannot be played. And if rook d2, it's rook b6. After b3, this pawn is hanging. Moreover, after this move, it's still this. And then we threaten with rook b2 as well as with knight c3. Check. That's why white decided to sacrifice the pawn but played d4. Rook b6 to capture it with a temper. D takes e5, rook b2. If now they block, it's knight c3. For example, here, take, take, take. And black is already a pawn up. Well, actually, 2 pawns up. This is a winning position. That's why after rook b2, it was just king f1. But knight c3, and there is nothing to talk about. Everything is hanging. However, there was only one chance for white to play. They took on d6 with the idea that if knight takes rook, it's d7 and nobody can stop the pawn. But Anatoly Karpov just took on d6, rook d6, and then continued with rook b1. Knight blocks, and king f6 is enough to protect this pawn on e6, after which he can take on a2. Well, rook d2 to stop it. At least this move works. But I think here Karpov played a more solid move. Well, he could also capture there actually, but he played b5 in order to promote the pawn as fast as possible. e5 was played to sacrifice, and after this move the king enters white camp and white resigned. However, I think they could resign earlier after rook takes b2 check. So can you imagine that in this position, where most of players played maybe something like that, or something like h5, or rook to h8 and then h5, maybe d5 would be another move, knight b8 is the best option. So in a close position, you should maneuver with your pieces, and mainly you should focus on weaknesses. And because slow plans work in close position, it may take a few tempers for you to improve a piece, but create serious problems for your opponent. For example, like it was here with knight d7, knight c5, and knight a4. And the second thing is, of course, this rook activity. The control over the F file is useless. None of players may enter the enemy camp. These squares are under white's attack. These three squares are under black's king attack. So the F file is open, but nobody can enter the enemy camp. That's why it makes sense to take advantage of the pawn weaknesses and develop the rook in a different way. Okay. Any questions, comments? Before we continue, let me quickly remind you about... here it is. Let me quickly remind you about the tournament that we are going to conduct next Sunday. I will be streaming this tournament. This is a tournament with a real money prize. The first prize is $100, the second is $50, and the third is $25. It's in cash. After we check the games for cheating, these amounts will be sent by PayPal to the winners. Also, people who get the 4th and the 5th place get a free 1-hour class with a FIDE master. With a FIDE master from our school, so from one of these two, FIDE master Nikolai Yordanov or FIDE master Armin Musevich. They both are good coaches, and for example, Nikolai Yordanov conducted a Mastermind recently. You know him. Armin Musevich is going to conduct a Mastermind or a webinar soon. You'll meet him too. Well, he has actually a higher rating than Nikolai. Well, it's just a little bit higher. Okay, so, and I also want to remind you that if you wanna just get a kind of a recommendation from our coach, or you wanna start chess lessons but you don't know what to start with, you can schedule a free chess lesson by clicking on this link. Here you choose a coach, time that first time zone. Mine is, where is mine? Mine is Asia Almaty. So here you choose, for example, this. You enter your name, your email address, confirmation, as well as a Zoom link will be delivered to this email. Then you click proceed to a payment, where we ask you to add your credit card number, but we don't charge you any money. $2 will be frozen, but they will be released in a few days. So it's absolutely free. Your credit card is just required to confirm your booking. Okay, fine, let's continue. Let me share the links for you. So this is the link to the tournament where I want you to register. And if you want to schedule a free class, it's a different link. I'll send it to you as well. Okay, let's continue. I also have some game fragments to demonstrate. Now the next one is the game fragment between Viktor Korchnoi and Tigran Petrosyan. Here black played knight c8. White pieces are prepared for e4. However, the question is whether we should play e4 right away or maybe we should play something else. What comes to your mind? Which plan would you suggest white to play? Okay, yeah, there is a problem with the internet in the place where I live, and I'm going to change it. I thought, well, actually, engineers came on Friday and promised, they told they fixed everything, but looks like the problem appeared once again, so there can be a disconnection on my side. F3. F3 is, and what do you want to, with F3, do you want to play E4 after that? So knight C8 is played, F3 and E4. Well, it seems to be okay, but you see after D takes E4, there is a pawn hanging here. You may say, okay, let's play this. For example, let's play F3. Let's say they play. Let's say they just play something like H4. You play this move. D takes E4, F takes E4, Rook D4. Here you may say that something like that may work, but I actually believe that it's possible to sacrifice it. I mean, we can leave the Rook on D4. Let's say this, bishop takes, and D takes E4. Then knight D6. This is where I think well, black has enough compensation. Or they can actually capture with the knight. This is how they are protecting here. So pawn takes and rook escapes. Or this pawn takes, e takes D5, bishop takes D4, bishop takes D4, king goes to H1. D takes E4. I also think this is a better position for black. They have 3 pawns to compensate the exchange sacrifice. So F3 doesn't work. So knight C8 is played. What comes to your mind? Okay, yeah, playing e4 in this position looks like black are prepared for this move. Knight e4, knight takes e4, bishop e4, and they can play knight d6. Everything is fine. d4 is a weakness. The bishop is restricted, and white cannot take advantage of the bishop pair because the one on e4 is restricted with these pawns. That's why it's not a good plan. Instead, After knight c8, it was knight to b1. e5 cannot be played. And with this move, white rejected the idea of playing e4, but we just want to remaneuver the knight to a better spot. Knight h7, bishop a3. They gained the tempo. Queen moves, and now they replace the knight to f3, where it stays better and control the e5 square. Knight goes back to d7, bishop b4. Knight goes there, bishop comes back to c3. And now the queen side activity works pretty well. So it was bishop e1 to open the files, and then just b4 and then a4. So with this remaneuver, white improved their position and now focused on the attack on the queen side. Well, the game finally ended in a draw, but white is better in this position comparing to that position, which is very close to equality. Here with knight b1, they were able to improve the position of most of their pieces and initiate a pawn march, which seems to be impossible in this position. So b4, queen b4, for example. If a3, well, a5 can be played, for example. So what does it mean? It means that when the position is closed, if you think that your opponent is well prepared for a breakout, or if you are not prepared enough for a breakout, choose another plan. Prevent a counterplay of your opponent by remaneuvering your pieces to better spots. For example, knight on f3 covers e5 and e6, e5 cannot be played. And then do something else on the side where you are better prepared. Like here, white pieces are consolidated on the queen side. And the last example, the last game fragment for today is this. A game between Veselin Topalov and Paul van der Sterren. What do you think white should do? Looks like white rooks are on the A file, so probably entering the enemy camp makes sense, but rook a7, and what then? Or maybe you think white should play on the king side. However, looks like black is prepared for that. What comes to your mind in this position? Please tell me your thoughts. Okay, I'm looking for your comments. Knight a4, if black plays knight a4, it's fine. Their pawn structure is ruined. You know, knights are better in closed position, and this is the example of a closed position. That's why this knight on c5 is better than this bishop, which is restricted on both flanks. Well, bishop d1, well, yeah. Okay, there is a... Okay, Meredith suggests knight e2, just to bring... John and Robert suggest bishop takes c5. So let's look at this option. Bishop takes c5, d takes c5, then rook a5. Yeah, so take, and rook a5 in order to attack on b5. Well, they can just play this move, bishop to c8. I think this is slightly better for white position, but I don't really understand what white should do here. That's why let's go back. So here in the game, instead of playing bishop c5, because this bishop isn't so bad, it can play on both flanks and can capture this knight on c5 anytime. So here white pieces are concentrated on the queen side, so it makes sense for them to open the position there with b3 or with b4. But if right now this move is played, it's just c takes b3, bishop takes b3, and h4. Knight goes back, but the pawn on e4 is hanging. That's why we should capture on b3 with something else. That's why knight e2 is important. It goes to c1. b4. So they have to capture. The knight has no squares to move to. If it goes to a6, we just take it. Take, knight takes. And then we should increase the pressure on b5, because the file is open now. That means we can successfully do it. Knight c5, knight takes c5, queen e2 attacking this pawn, bishop c8, and rook a7. Now if they block with something, it's queen b5. I think even if this move is played, it's still queen b5, because if they take there, it's this rook is hanging, and if they take on b5, it's rook c7. So queen d8 was played. Rook 1 to a5 attacking here. Bishop d7 seems to be a good move. And if this move was played on the board, it could be bishop e3, bishop takes c5, d takes c5, and queen e3. With the idea of playing c4 after that, and now these two pawns will be under the attack. And this bishop will be improved in case if black plays b4. Well, for example, what? Queen c8, c4, and if b4 is played, it's just rook c5. So they have to play something else, let's say this, and then you can play this move. If b4, you just go back and try to capture it, because they cannot protect it with bishop e7. In such a case, you take on e5. So, well, yeah, move by move, you just increase the pressure, and they should keep the defense of their position. Also, if something like that, you may look for tactical strikes, let's say queen e1 in this position, and after bishop a5, it's knight takes e5 first, with the idea of a discovered attack. So you're also threatening here, and the best move is just to sacrifice, move the king, and let white capture on a5. So, okay, let's go back. Bishop d7 didn't offer a lot and didn't save the position, so rook e7 was played instead. Rook takes e7, queen takes e7, or bishop takes e7. And now just rook b5, ending with extra pawn. Well, it was bishop a6 played, but come on, it's fine. Queen takes, rook takes, queen takes. Queen goes to a safe spot, queen c7, queen a1. And later in the game, white was able to take advantage of this extra pawn. They played something like that, c4, c5, and created a pass pawn and finally converted it into a winning position. So, again, what you may learn from our today's mastermind. First of all, you should understand that in a closed position, slow plans work. Please consider a kingside attack. I mean, an attack on the enemy king. Doesn't really matter where it's located. But here you should look for preconditions of the kingside attack. Whether you have enough material on that side of the board where the enemy king is located, and there is no strong counterplay for your opponent. Also, Another thing to take into account is that you should keep the files open. I mean, if you want to attack the king, you should open the files in order to bring your rooks into the attack. Well, as I told you, slow plans work in the closed positions. So if you see that one of your pieces is not doing anything and is useless, just try to improve it by relocating it to a better spot. And when you consider a better spot, you may also keep in mind one more thing. Look at where your pieces are concentrated or where you get more space. This is probably the side where you should play. And when you see that your pieces are prepared, make a breakout by exchanging pawns and try to enter the enemy territory. Also, if you think you are not ready to break up the position, to open the position, just maneuver with your pieces and prepare yourself, or at least prevent your opponent's counterplay. Okay, guys, that was all I wanted to share today. Do you have any questions? And I will just quickly remind you about the tournament. So maybe for those who will be watching this webinar, the recording of this mastermind, they will at least remember that next Sunday there is a tournament. Oh, actually, well, it starts the same time as usual, so it's less than 7 days. We will improve. We will adjust this clock, no worries. So the tournament is next week, and to participate there you should register as well as to join our club on TheChessWorld.com. This is where we are going to conduct the tournament. And of course, arrive 5 minutes earlier and be ready to play. If you are looking for a chess coach, this is our chess school's website. I just told you how to book a free chess lesson. It's just a 20 minutes chess lesson with one of our coaches if you want to try. Here you may choose a coach you want to learn from. But if you are looking for a normal, ordinary lesson, well, no, they are not ordinary, of course. Well, you're looking for a 1 hour chess lesson, then you should click here, book your lesson, and choose a coach you would like to work with. Let's say International Master David Fitzsimons. Choose time according to your time zone and enter your name, last name, and email. Proceed to payment. Enter your credit card details. Accept and click book, and then the lesson will be booked. You'll get a confirmation, and 15 or 30 minutes before the class, a Zoom link for the class will be sent to your email. Okay, I will share the link for you here in the chat. And do you have any questions? Okay, the question actually not a question, it's just a kind of, just a sec, let me read it. Well, I just want to rephrase it. Does it make sense to sacrifice a pawn in order to achieve something? Yes. When you play in a closed position, it makes sense to sacrifice something. For example, I'm actually working on a course which explains how you should how in closed positions, as well as it explains how to come up with a plan. It's a course about planning with different pawn structures, and planning in closed, open position, planning in games. So in order to open the file, if you can attack through this file, or if you can get some activity anyway, I think you can take advantage after that. So you can either overtake the initiative, gain more space, and later exploit it, or a pawn structure. Doesn't really matter if it's a king's pawn cover or not. Any other questions? Well, okay. I see there is a problem with video. I'm going to improve it to the next